Our next speaker is Panayotis, who's joining from a local team with a global impact, of course. WeatherXM is pioneering deep in weather forecasting. Panayotis, stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Okay. So I'm Dean's excuse that I have nothing against Ethereum. I have friends who use Ethereum. So I'm Panayotis. I'm from WeatherXM. We are a deep-in project, like Dean mentioned. This is a decentralized physical infrastructure network project, and we're working on one of humankind's most important problems, which is the weather. I'm not going to sell the project, but I have to give some background for the rest of the things to make sense. So we are creating our own devices. This is one of the weather stations that are manufactured based on our specs and using our firmware. And we have sold around 5,000 of them. We receive near real-time data from 72 countries around the world. And so we are creating a network of devices that are organized and rewarded using Web3 technology. So when you start to have a physical presence, when you start having one leg in the mid-space, you realize that some things are not the same as if you're a pure like DeFi project or pure Web3 project. And I don't have the answers for the things that I'm going to present, but I can give you a glimpse on the challenges we are facing and how we are thinking about them. So the first one is token issuance. When you create your own token, you have a lot of people telling you you should have an issuance or a distribution that follows this curve or the other curve. The most popular ones is halving, which is what Bitcoin introduced, and another one, which is very simple, is linear emissions. So in halving, the idea is that for every fixed period of time, the rewards, the tokens that are distributed, get half. So if for one period you have to distribute 100 tokens, in the next period you have to distribute 50 tokens and then 25 tokens, etc. In a linear emissions model, you have a fixed amount of tokens that is distributed in each period. So in the first period, 50 tokens, the second period, 50 tokens, etc. For the record, these two graphs have the same area underneath them, which means that they are distributing the same amount of tokens in total. What's changing is the way these tokens are distributed. Now, we tried to think what this would mean for our project. So we have a number of participants, we have a number of stations around the world. We want to reward them for the work that they do, for collecting data and sending this data to the network. And we tried thinking what each one of the models would mean. So, for example, if you see these two colored areas, this is the rewards that the total of the stations would get in a period in one model and in the other model. And if you see in the next period, in the halving model, the total reward distributed to the stations is lower, while in the linear model, the total tokens distributed is the same. Now, assuming that the price remains the same, and the idea is that, okay, we're trying to study how this works, it doesn't make sense to introduce a parameter like, okay, the token will go 10x or 100x, then everything works. But what if we're in a market where the network produces some value, sells data to companies and organizations that are interested in this data, and it has reached an equilibrium. And the token price is stable. What the impact of this in the halving model would be that in the next period, the tokens and the value to be distributed to station owners would be lower. And if we assume that station owners operate in a mature market and they have a marginal profit, this would mean that the number of stations would have to go down. Some of them would go offline. While in the linear model, we don't have this. If the price stays stable, then the number of tokens distributed stays stable. The same operators can continue operating. Something is not working. Oh. Sorry. So, yep. And, sorry. Yeah, okay. Now, if we go to an optimistic scenario where we say that, okay, let's assume that everything goes much better and the price of the token doubles. This means that in the halving model, the total value distributed in each period would stay the same because the number of tokens becomes half, but their value becomes double, so the total value is the same. And we should expect that the network stays the same, the size of the network stays the same. While in a linear model, because the number of tokens distributed is stable, if the price increases, then there's space for more stations and more operators to join the network. And we think that this model fits better the way our network works. And I know that this may cause a lot of discussions because this is one of the things that is very fundamental in how Bitcoin works. But the way I see it, in a halving emissions model, if the token price doubles, then the network adjusts to provide, for example, in Bitcoin, to provide additional security for this value that is captured in the network. So the size of the network is, the way I see it, a result of the total value locked in the network or in the protocol. While in a linear model, emission, if the price doubles, the network increases. So I can see this type of, where in one, the halving model is better suited for protocols and projects where the size is an outcome of the total value locked or captured in the protocol, where the linear model is an outcome. In the linear model, the value of the network is an outcome of the size of the network. In our case, the total value of the WeatherXM network is bigger when we have more stations. So the second thing I would like to talk about is governance, and we've talked a lot about governance. And when you're in the deep-in space, there's an interesting parameter. So usually governance tokens are used as a proof that the holder of the tokens has a stake in the project and that their interest is aligned with the project's interests. So I buy some tokens, I want to preserve their value, so I will vote in such a way that the project goes better. In our case, we already have a token. It's the device itself. Of course, it doesn't have a voting power as a device, but it is a token that proves that the holder, the owner of the station, has a stake in the project. They have paid for their station. There's also a significant amount of friction transferring this token, which is very useful if you think of all the vulnerabilities that were mentioned in previous examples, where tokens are bought using flash loans, used to vote, and then sold back. In our case, acquiring the token means acquiring a physical device that is located somewhere in the world. It's not easy to do it in a few milliseconds. The problem is that it's not on-chain. So there is a protocol, a suggestion of, it's an Ethereum improvement protocol, 5791, which describes what is called the physically bound tokens. And the idea is that you have an NFT, and this NFT can be claimed by someone who holds a piece of hardware. So in our case, we have an NFT that says that this is station 123, and the owner, the person who has physical access to the station, can use a mechanism to prove that they have physical access and claim the token. This whole process can be done on-chain. It's based on taking advantage of a cryptographic chip that we have on the station, so we can provide a challenge and a signed proof, etc. So this can be used to link an on-chain artifact, like the NFT, with a physical object. And then once you have this link, it's easy to say, first of all, that, okay, instead of trying to find out who is the owner of this station in order to reward it, I can easily check who is the owner of this NFT. It's very easy on-chain. And also, I could say that, okay, these NFTs can be part of the governance process. They can vote, they can veto, they can do things, which is very useful, and it's also, they're also aligned with the rest of the project goals. Now, physically bound tokens are great, but there are 2 points that we need to clarify, and we're not sure how to do them. First of all, station owners are not the only persons who have a stake in the project. We have developers, we have hardware manufacturers. There's a whole ecosystem around WeatherXM. So using the physically bound NFTs, physically bound tokens, as a governance token would leave everyone that does not have a station out of this governance process. And the second one is that what the physically bound tokens actually prove is that I have access to the hardware. But having access and having ownership over the hardware is not always the same. For example, if you're a single person, an individual, yes, I have my station in my backyard, and I also have physical access to it. But if we're talking about an organization, a DAO, a company that decided to deploy 10, 15, 100 stations in an area, the people that have physical access to these stations, the DAO members, the technicians that will service them, are not the same people that should receive rewards and participate in governance. So this is an open question too. So if you think that these are interesting issues and subjects for discussion, or if you're interested in weather, Internet of Things, or blockchain, we try to deal with all these things. You should visit WeatherXM and hopefully join our project too. Or if you want to contact me personally, I'm on Warcast. Thank you.
How are we doing on time? What time is it? 7 minutes after 4. Do we have any questions? We have time for one question. Excellent. And then we're looking for Rosso. Rosso from AthensDAO. Isethmos, perfect.
Test. Actually, I had 2 questions, but yeah, I will need to choose one now. Which one?
Let me choose.
Okay. So based on the halving model, right, are the users rewarded equally, or for the, like, you're using weather in this case, so are the users also rewarded equally using the halving model? But what happens if the accuracy of the provided data by the prototype or the product is not accurate? So, like, for example, I have like a product in the United States and it gives like 50% accuracy on the weather, and I have another product in Portugal which gives like 98 accuracy on the weather. So are the users rewarded differently based on the accuracy, or rewarded equally based on halving model?
And the second one?
And the second question was like, I noticed you use the ETH model or protocol, right? Have you considered using underdog protocol for soulbound NFT tokens, which also can introduce expiry dates on the NFTs? So in case a user wants to refund the product, like send it back to the protocol, you can take back the NFT and reissue later on.
Okay, so first regarding the rewards, we have a whole mechanism that we call the quality of data mechanism. And there's also another one that has to do with location, which is the proof of location. And these two mechanisms combined provide the score, which actually measures how well a station is doing their job. And based on this, they get the rewards. Regarding the Ethereum, soulbound, etc., like I said, first of all, Ethereum, it's like presenting a project and saying we have built this on using Python, and someone raises their hand and say, would you consider Java? It's not about what's better or what's faster, it's what you have already developed on. And like I said, these are ideas. This is a glimpse on what we are discussing and debating at the office every day. So yeah, we're open to taking suggestions.